Disaster in Nepal, the official death toll at over 2,400 people and expected to rise dramatically, while a massive global rescue effort is hindered by a 6.7 magnitude aftershock and heavy rains. Tensions high in and around Jerusalem. A Palestinian man is arrested in a deliberate hit and run that injured 4 Israeli policemen, the third attack in one day. Despite stated plans to scale back the operation, Saudi-led warplanes strike targets across Yemen in one of the most intensive days of combat since the campaign began.
The News Today with Lucy Aharish.
Good evening and welcome to the News Today. Relief efforts are intensifying in Nepal under extremely tough conditions after the landlocked Asian country was hit by its worst earthquake in 80 years. The death toll has reached over 2,400 people with over 5,500 others injured. But both of those numbers are expected to rise dramatically. The global rescue effort was made even more complex today with a strong 6.7 magnitude aftershock and heavy rains. Fatalities have also been reported in India, Tibet, Bangladesh, and on the Nepal-China border. Joining me tonight is Shmuel Marco, a geologist at the Tel Aviv University. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming. Before we will start discussing this, here's more of the latest from Shahab Peled.
More than 2,400 people. That's the latest death toll from the devastating earthquake that hit Nepal, with aftershocks jolting the area Sunday. A strong 6.7 magnitude impact followed the initial 7.8 quake that struck the region, injuring over 5,500 people.
It was like yesterday. It was very strong. As we read in the newspapers today, for 2 or 3 days such jolts will be felt and people need to be warned.
The world rushed to provide desperately needed aid, with teams pouring in from countries across the globe, including Japan, Germany and the US, which also pledged $1 million to the aid effort.
We are trained in everything from structural collapse to trench rescue, water rescue. We can perform rope rescue. Basically, they train us in any way that they can think of so that we can help.
In the densely populated Kathmandu Valley, thousands of people spent the night outside in freezing temperatures and patchy rain, too afraid to return to their damaged homes.
I saw the buildings fall and nearby sites crumble. Then people escaped from the sites and spent the night inside tents and wherever was available. There are still people who are trapped.
The earthquake rippled through the Nepali capital and spread north towards the Himalayas and Tibet. Avalanches unleashed in the Everest mountain, killing at least 17 people.
We've had a lot of disturbance here due to the earthquake, which was reported in Nepal. All along that phase, now it's covered into clouds. We had quite a few big avalanches coming down of those phases. From here, we had quite a bit of rockfall.
The tremor marks the strongest since Nepal's worst earthquake disaster in 1934 that killed 8,500 people. Only 1 week ago, some 50 earthquake experts and social scientists arrived at Kathmandu to help the region better prepare for what eventually took place sooner than they had imagined. They claimed it is not merely a natural seismic fault, but building construction and population density that increases 10 times over the chances of damage and loss of life. As roads to the struck area remain blocked by landslides and hospitals become overloaded, the full scale of the destruction has yet to unfold.
And like I said, with me right now here in the studio, Shmuel Marco, a geologist at the Tel Aviv University. Good evening again.
Good evening.
Let's try to imagine that Nepal was a developed country, the houses were there developed. Can this cause so much death toll like we are seeing right now in this current situation?
Absolutely not. The same earthquake, if it happened in places like California, the damage would be much, much less.
Was it expected? Because, you know, we're always talking about earthquakes, and of course it's Mother Nature, and you cannot predict when it will come, and you cannot be a prophet and say, okay, it will happen in 2 days. With all the advanced technology that we're seeing right now, it's not possible anymore to predict such big disaster that is supposed to happen?
It's a good question. It's possible to know that it's an earthquake country, so earthquakes are expected. And this is no surprise. We know that just 80 years ago, a major earthquake hit the same place. And in the 19th century, the same. And we know some of the history going back to the 7th century. Earthquakes repeatedly hit the same region. So this is no surprise. We cannot predict in advance the date or the hour. On the other hand, in modern countries, in the recent years, scientists are able to predict a few seconds before the major waves arrive. So if you are prepared for this, if you have the technology, you can prevent a significant part of the damage by warning a few seconds before the major waves arrive.
There is a way that, you said that a few seconds, but a few seconds, you know, cannot help anyone.
You can do lots of things, yes. For example, you can slow trains. You can stop, you can cut electricity or shut down gas supplies and prevent fires and lots of delicate, suppose you're operating on an eye with a laser knife, so you can stop this a second before you save some. So this is helpful. On the other hand, you should be treating a country like this like you go in a car and you put on your safety belt. You don't prepare to be involved in a car accident. Just the same, you should always be prepared for an earthquake.
So joining us right now from Kathmandu is Yochai Lelior, member of the Harel Insurance Rescue Team. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi.
Yochai, so let's try to understand what is the current situation right now in Nepal.
Right now, it's a bit of a chaos. No phone calls, or this is a problem to get outside with the connection. No internet. There are aftershocks and strong ones. So out of the civil population live outside. They don't live in the apartment or the buildings. You can see all the buildings are without any light. Now it's dark, and people are sleeping in the open area, so they won't get injured if there will be another shock or earthquake and something will collapse. And for the Israelis that are tracking in the three known tracks in Nepal, that's in Everest Base Camp and Annapurna around and Langtang, most of the people that have problems, about 72 Israelis are stuck in the mountains region. It's in the Langtang area. Some of the villages were hit by the earthquake, and there is no ceiling, no water, no food, and no heat. And it's snowing right now in the mountains, so the Israelis over there are not a very good situation.
Yochai, how hard is the job of the rescue team right now under these conditions?
It's tough because there is a civil population. We are looking for the Israeli Harel insured customers, people, but all the Israeli are here. We try to look after them, but the country itself is in the state of shock. That means no helicopters, because we cannot go with a helicopter up to bring the Israelis down because the army use them, or the civil defense, they use those helicopters. Very very hard to get help to those regions. So the rescue is not like last year when there was the blizzard, which was in a way the resources were much bigger, much better.
Yes, Yochai, thank you very, very much, and God help you with all your efforts for all the rescue teams. Just explain to me in a short answer, what is so specific in this place, from the geography of this place, that makes it so sensitive?
It's a place where two large tectonic plates collide. They thrust against each other, and the rocks are crushed and ground all the time. It happens very, very slowly. It's more or less in the rate that your fingernails grow, a few centimeters every year. So every several tens of years, the rocks, the crust of the earth breaks and snaps and releases huge amount of energy that was accumulating during this several tens of years. And this sudden release causes the earthquake.
Yes, when you less expect it. This. Shmuel, Marco, thank you very, very much for giving us this explanation. And we, of course, will return later on the show to Nepal, but now we turn to Jerusalem, where tensions are again on the rise. Today, police arrested a suspect in a deliberate hit-and-run attack that injured 4 policemen on Saturday. Earlier that day, a Palestinian teenager from the Atur neighborhood tried to stab a border policeman who shot him dead. And on Saturday afternoon, rioting broke out there, and a second Palestinian was shot dead in the flashpoint city of Hebron, again after stabbing a border police officer. We'll discuss, of course, after this, but first let's take a look back.
ولن ينعم أحد في السلام في المنطقة إلا إذا شعر الشعب الفلسطيني بهذا الأمن والاستقرار في دولة حرة مستقلة.
ישראל תעשה כל מה שדרוש כדי להגן על ביטחון המדינה ועל אזרחיה.
And joining me right now here in the studio is Middle East analyst Avi Sakharov. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming. And also Dr. Ghassan Abdallah, director of the Center for Applied Research in Education. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming. I will start with you, Avi. You are just like lately doing some tours again, like every day in the West Bank, but you're coming with some different approach than what we are seeing in Jerusalem. In the West Bank, people are worried about food, about education, about economy, and they understood that the intifada, let's say the muqawama, the resistance, the violent resistance is not working anymore. How come what's happening in the West Bank is not happening in East Jerusalem?
I think that the case of East Jerusalem is completely different than the rest of the West Bank. I mean, there is some kind of connection, of course, but let us start with the fact that Israel is in control over East Jerusalem. It's not like the case of the West Bank, which the PA, Palestinian Authority, is the sovereign over there. And I think that the general feeling in the West Bank is that the Palestinian Authority is not interested, meaning the leadership is not interested in escalation on the ground, while in East Jerusalem it's different. And yes, there are incidents, there are stabbing, there are killing, yes, and there is a Palestinian young man that was killed last week in East Jerusalem, and we tend to forget that. And I think that brought some kind of a small-scale escalation. I don't see it already infecting the other parts of the West Bank. I don't see the West Bank in flames or, not even close to an intifada.
So we are seeing, Dr. Abdallah, that Jerusalem is always a sensitive point here and now, after like sometimes in 2 months, every 2 months, every 2 days, every now and then, we are experiencing this, let's say, flash of violence in East Jerusalem. Why isn't the Palestinian Authority in one way trying to control what is happening in East Jerusalem?
Okay, this question, I can accept it if it is coming by somebody who lands from the moon to here. You know, and I'm sure that you know, that the Palestinian Authority has no authority in East Jerusalem, neither in the West Bank areas A, B, and C. And this contradicts to what my cousin has just mentioned. The Palestinian Authority has no control at all in these territories. But back to your question, and excuse me to talk from pure academic perspective, from mental health, as a mental health professional, I'm afraid that the Palestinians in East Jerusalem are going in this direction, socio-side, because of the ongoing frustration, the ongoing oppression, daily oppression in East Jerusalem. Look at Mount of Olives and Isawiya. 500 hectares were confiscated from their lands recently in order to build what they call it a park, okay? And add to this the daily demolition of houses and the deteriorating economical situation. I'd like you to go and investigate in Mount of Olives how many schools are there, secondary schools for females like you in the Mount of Olives. How many schools are there? How many governmental hospitals are there in Mount of Olives? So because of the daily ongoing frustration, oppression against the Jerusalemites,
and of course
here comes the saying, I'm finishing, if injustice has become a way of life, then resistance has become a must.
So before we are continuing, I-24 News reporter Uri Shapira sums up the weekend's violence in Jerusalem.
A weekend of violence in Israel as the country marked its 67th Independence Day, which is a day of grief and anger for the Palestinians. On Saturday night, Israeli security forces shot and killed a Palestinian youth who Israel said had tried to stab a border policeman at a checkpoint a few kilometers from Jerusalem. Shocked by what they see as a light Israeli trigger finger, many Palestinians reacted in anger and outrage.
We were shocked to hear the news of the death of our cousin. He arrived at the Azayim checkpoint, where the soldiers shot him for no reason. Witnesses told us that they saw the soldiers shooting him and executing him.
On Saturday morning, another stabbing incident, this time outside the tomb of the patriarchs in Hebron. A Palestinian stabbed and injured a border police officer. The attacker was also shot and killed. And in the third incident of the day, 4 police officers were injured in the Atur eastern neighborhood of Jerusalem as a car rammed into them. The suspect, a Palestinian in his 30s from East Jerusalem, was arrested by Israeli authorities Sunday.
Yes, Avi, try to explain to me, please. It seems that both sides, the Palestinian and the Israelis, are interested in maintaining the status quo of Jerusalem. On one side, the Palestinians cannot actually control what is happening, like I asked the question like somebody's dropping from the moon. They cannot actually control what is happening in East Jerusalem. And on the other side, Israel is not giving up on East Jerusalem, although it doesn't have any control there, and although we don't see a lot of Jewish people living there. So, you know, what is the solution? What can be the solution if we want to look for solutions?
I don't think that Israel is looking for solutions right now. Israel is looking to keep the status quo as it is, meaning to keep the West Bank under the control of the Palestinian Authority as some kind of a partner. You know, when it's convenient for them, they use them as a partner. When it's not convenient for them, so they treat them as an enemy. In East Jerusalem, they want to keep East Jerusalem, even with the small-scale riots, even with the clashes here or there, or the attacks here or there. And at the end of the day, I think it's pretty fascinating to see the relations between Israel in Gaza, Israel and Hamas. Over there, really, it's astonishing. It seems as if Israel is interested in any way to keep Hamas alive and to keep Hamas in Gaza and not letting the Palestinian authorities. So I think that then again, we need to look at the bigger picture. It's not only about East Jerusalem. East Jerusalem, it's like a pot with hot water, which is bubbling and bubbling and bubbling.
But what is the message that Israel is trying to give to the youngsters in East Jerusalem? What is the message? That we are maintaining some kind of an understanding with the Gaza Strip, although they are throwing rockets at us. So which means that if you are acting in a violent way against Israel, Israel will continue treating you or trying to get with an understanding with you. So what is the, just, I will allow you, what is the message that Israel is giving these youngsters?
This is the message. We are willing to deal, to talk to, or to talk under the table with people that, yes, maybe from time to time will shoot rockets at us, but this is our interest to keep things quiet in Gaza. And let us, be honest enough about that. Hamas is keeping things quiet right now in Gaza. So all the time that they're not shooting heavily, it's quite convenient for Israel to keep it that way.
I think, and here I'm commenting on what you have just said, Israel wants to convey two messages to two different addresses. The first message to the Palestinians that if you don't accept taming the shrew, then you will be killed and you will be kicked out of Jerusalem. And the second message that the Israeli government want to convey is to the Israeli right-wing community. Look, here are your enemies, and we are doing all our maximum in order to tame them and in order to oppress them. The Palestinians in East Jerusalem also want to convey a message to the Israeli government and to the Israeli community. To the Israeli government, they want to say, look, despite your intensive efforts to oppress us, we don't want you as an occupation.
Do you really think that? Because, and I will ask you before we're going to our correspondent in Jerusalem, because there are a lot of requests in the Interior Office, Israeli Interior Office, of Palestinians who are living in Jerusalem to have an Israeli citizenship. So this is not going with what you are telling me, because a lot of the Palestinians who are living in Jerusalem want an Israeli citizenship, want to be under the control of the occupier. Yes,
you are right. I know that thousands of Palestinians in Jerusalem got it, and maybe hundreds want to get it, because part of them are doing this because they are forced to do it to protect themselves and to protect their rights as human beings living in Jerusalem.
This is a conflict. You understand?
This is contradictory.
This is contradicting to what the message that the Palestinians are trying to send Israel.
When I say that they want to convey the message that we would like to end the occupation,
so
you will see those thousands complying to this message. Also, they don't want the occupation to keep on.
I just want to go to our correspondent, Eli Ochenberg, diplomatic correspondent for the News Today, Eli Ochenberg, who is right now in Jerusalem. We're hearing the things that we're hearing here in the studio, and it seems that we're talking suddenly about three-state solution, maybe four-state solution. The solution of Jerusalem, the solution of the Gaza Strip, the solution of the West Bank, and the solution of Israel. So this is the status quo that the state of Israel want to maintain in the next 4 years in the new government?
Well, Lucy, what we see here in Jerusalem in recent days is a clear indication to the growing frustration among the Palestinian people. There are no peace negotiations, no diplomatic efforts to reach a solution, and what we see here are attacks carried out by individuals, by lone wolves. We're not talking about something organized. It's not a master plan of any sort of organization, but frustrated individuals who decides to carry out such attacks, and especially in those already, to begin with, tense areas such as Jerusalem, especially the eastern neighborhoods. Such attacks will happen more oftenly if we will not see any sort of progress. And but it is important to mention that while we see those events taking place, the security cooperation between Israel and the Palestinian Authority continues. despite what maybe the Israeli public or the Palestinian public may feel that they're not corresponding with each other, the security cooperation still exists.
Still continue. Yes, Ali Ochenberg, thank you very much for this. Yes, of course.
5 seconds. I'd like to thank your reporter for this because she is conveying the message to the Israeli government. This is not the tool to settle down the violent situation in East Jerusalem. There are alternatives, going back to negotiations and be objective and rational, sit with the Palestinian Authority and end occupying East Jerusalem. She is very...
So just before, first of all, thank you, and I thank you in her name. But Avi, you know, talking about the security cooperation between Israel and the Palestinians, it seems that it's also convenient for the Palestinians, this current situation in East Jerusalem, because this sends the message in one way or another of that the Palestinians wants to send to the war.
Well, it keeps the Palestinian issue alive. In a way, there's a kind of a paradox or a dilemma, big dilemma for the Palestinians, because all the time that they are very quiet, the Israelis will not even look at them, you know, completely ignore them, completely. If they will start shooting, if they will start with riots, then people of Israel will blame them of being terrorists, irhabiyun, and you're part of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. So now, right now, I don't see then again, you know, that too many people are too enthusiastic of joining this this escalation or small-scale escalation in East Jerusalem. I think that for the meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority is waiting. It's waiting to see what will happen with the Israeli government. What kind of a government will it be? What would its policy will be? And then to act, meaning maybe approach the ICC again, maybe approach the Security Council, maybe many other steps. But for the meanwhile, I think that everyone is waiting to see what will come out of the Israeli government.
Yeah, so
but I can assure you, cousin, that the Palestinians have no hope at all on this coming government, because we are sure that there is red snake and black snake, both are deadly. We know that this government from the beginning, before he won the elections, he was very frank with himself, with the Israeli community, with the international community, that there will not be a Palestinian state. So we don't want to keep cheating ourselves and to follow illusions.
Yeah,
this government is not going for peace. It's going for more confiscation. It's going for more violence, more war on Palestinians.
My cousin.
I'm not your cousin. I am your brother.
My cousin. My brother. Thank you very much for coming here to the studio. We won't solve the Palestinian-Israeli problem. We're going out for a small break. 2 minutes, and I'll be back. Disaster in Nepal, the official death toll at over 2,400 people and expected to rise dramatically while a massive global rescue effort is hindered by a 6.7 magnitude aftershock and heavy rains. Tensions high in and around Jerusalem. A Palestinian man is arrested in a deliberate hit and run that injured 4 Israeli policemen, the third attack in one day. And despite stated plans to scale back the operation, Saudi-led warplanes strike targets across Yemen in one of the most intensive days of combat since the campaign began. Welcome back. Yemenis who were hoping for relief in the humanitarian crisis in the country saw instead an escalation in fighting today. At least 5 airstrikes took place across the country early today, marking the Saudi-led coalition's most widespread combat since it began its campaign there. The city of Aden and the presidential palace in Sana'a were 2 of the main targets. Ayman Siksik has more.
The undeclared war between Saudi Arabia and Iran continues to rage in Aden, the Yemeni port city, where fighters loyal to Yemeni President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi attempted to stop Iranian allied militia from advancing in the city. Last week, the Saudi-led coalition announced it would scale back its attacks in Yemen following the humanitarian crisis in the country.
Today, the coalition leadership is announcing that the military campaign is over according to the request of the Yemeni government and the President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi, as the main targets of the operation of the campaign were reached.
But warplanes continued to strike Yemen's third city, Taiz, already on Friday, and raged on Sunday near Hadi's presidential palace. President Hadi, who has fled Yemen since the escalation of the crisis, expressed his support of the continued operation to ward off Iranian allied forces.
I express the deepest gratitude and respect to our Arab and Muslim brothers and friends in this exceptional strategic alliance, in my name and on behalf of the Yemeni people.
Saudi officials made it clear that their support lies with the ousted president and that the strikes on Yemen are not yet over.
The Houthis should be under no illusion that we will continue to use force in order to stop them from taking Yemen over by aggressive actions. That was the objective of Operation Decisive Storm, in addition, of course, to the protection of the legitimate government of Yemen.
And with me right now is senior Middle East analyst Ali Waqid. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming. At what point it started to deteriorate again, and was that planned? Was this attack planned?
Lucy, in the last days we were discussing why the Saudis declared the end of their military operation, and it seems that because a delegation of the National Congress Party, the party led by former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, visited Saudi Arabia and started discussing with the leaders of Saudi Arabia about a compromise in which the former president was supposed to leave the country and not intervene more in the political affairs of Yemen. He and his son. On the other hand, the Saudis intensified their arms supplying to the local militias loyal to President Hadi, and this is what we are seeing today: an effort to bring the Houthis and partisans of Ali Abdullah Saleh to the table with the President Hadi, when the hand of the local militia loyal to the Saudis and to President Hadi are in a better position on the ground than the Houthis and their allies.
Basically, what you're telling me, that plans, let's say actions aside and talks aside, we can talk and say whatever we want, but on the ground we will do whatever we want.
Absolutely. The bet of the Saudis was that this delegation will convince Ali Abdullah Saleh on one hand, and on the other hand, the local militias will gain ground against the Houthis. And for the moment, this is not happening exactly as the Saudi scenario wanted, and this is why we are seeing in the last hours and days the airstrikes of the Saudis from time to time intensified against precise and concrete targets in Taiz and in Aden, but also in Sana'a. And this is the scenario: whether the Saudis will succeed to bring the Houthis on the table before they go back to a big air operation, and to see whether the Houthis will raise the white flag. This evening we saw a press conference of foreign Yemeni minister Yassin, in which he accused Iran, but he could not mention a concrete detail in which Iran was involved in the target. He said Iran wants to export its Islamic revolution. He said the declarations of Iran are supportive to the Houthis, and we see, Lucy, it is mainly a confrontation between Yemen and between Iran and between Saudi Arabia. And as long as none of the parties will not have a big and important advantage over the other, the status quo will be continued.
If I will hear this word again, status quo, after I heard it in Jerusalem, I will. Ali Waqid, thank you very much. We return now to the disaster in Nepal, where the death toll from the 7.8 magnitude earthquake that struck on Saturday is more than 2,400 and some 5,500 people injured. Here are Elsa Morgus and Uri Shapira on one of the teams traveling to Nepal and how they hope to help in its tragedy.
As the extent of the disaster in Nepal became clear, Israel was one of the first countries to react. and moved to send a team from the IDF Homefront Command, which specializes in emergency rescue missions.
Our main mission is saving life. We are taking a big delegation, 240 people, in order to support the people over there. We are taking search and rescue teams in order to try to find people under the rubble and to save their life.
20 tons of material and medical equipment will be sent along with the delegation, the largest ever sent abroad by Israeli military. The Homefront Command unit consists mainly on reserved soldiers and includes doctors and medical staff.
We have a lot of experience in that, and we have been in Haiti and other places around the world in order to support. Our mission is to be as fast as possible on ground and really to start helping the people on ground.
The unit's first foreign mission was in Kenya in 1998 after the bombing of the US Embassy there. Since then, the Homefront Command has participated in about 20 relief missions, including in Turkey after the earthquake 15 years ago, and more recently in Haiti in 2010. The last mission took place in the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan wreaked havoc in the country.
We are talking a lot with the UN delegation in order to coordinate that, and we are going to coordinate our mission in order to be on the right place and to support the right people.
Yes, and we're still on the same subject. Among those affected by the disaster are surrogate mothers in the advanced stages of pregnancy, many of them engaged by gay couples in Israel. Israel's Justice Ministry has green-lighted a plan to airlift them out of Nepal. More from Julian Balul and Ayman Siksik.
Initially, there was shock at images of the tragedy in Nepal. Then, in Israel, concern for relatives stranded there, and among them 24 babies born to mothers there in just a few days. On Facebook, photos quickly began to circulate of the young parents who became homeless. In Tel Aviv, the offices of Doron Mamet transformed into a war room. His agency helps gay couples to become parents through the use of surrogate mothers in Nepal.
16 babies that were born already in surrogacy processes in Nepal. To evacuate them probably tomorrow or day after, hopefully.
The Likud party of Prime Minister Netanyahu is also active. Amir Ohana in particular got involved in the early hours to try to find some solutions.
I immediately called the Minister of Interior, Gilad Erdan, and MK Miri Regev, who is the chairman of the Interior Committee. And immediately, State of Israel took a decision that the babies would be brought here immediately.
But beyond the babies already born and waiting to be repatriated are also future parents worried about the survival of their surrogate mothers. Ronen's baby is set to be born in the next few days. For 24 hours, he and his lawyer have been on alert.
You have to help us. You're living with the humanitarian team. You have to help us bring back the surrogate mother or bring materials to help her if she needs to give birth tomorrow.
But a problem. In Israel, gay couples are not allowed to use surrogacy to become parents. The government is therefore faced with a difficult choice: transfer the mothers to Tel Aviv by making an exception to the law, or leave them in Nepal despite the dangers there.
This is a matter of life and death, because if she won't come to Israel and try to give birth somewhere in Kathmandu, her life might be in risk and the baby's life might be in risk, and we don't want that to happen, of course.
A few minutes after our conversation, Ronen gets a text message from the Ministry of Justice.
They are willing to bring the surrogate mothers from Kathmandu to Israel, so we are waiting to see how that will happen, but it's great news so far.
It is still too early to know which surrogates will be authorized to board the plane, but the government's decision is unprecedented. Never before in the history of the country have surrogate mothers for gay couples been able to give birth in Israel.
Yes, and we just gave good news, but we have bad news, and the Tammuz agency added that Israel has not yet authorized the surrogate mother's entrance to the country, and that it is not yet known whether the woman will in fact choose to come to Israel. Yes. In the U.S., thousands took to the streets of Baltimore over the weekend to protest the death of a black man in police custody. Although the demonstrations began peacefully, it turned violent. 10 people were hurt and at least 12 arrested. More in this report from ABC News.
They lifted pointed posters and raised valiant voices, all in the name of Freddie Gray. A crowd of 1,500 tackling the streets of Baltimore as a police chopper tracked its every move from above.
You know, the video and the audio, it was just so blatant and so egregious.
Protester Aaron Smith still troubled by the cell phone video that captured Gray's arrest.
He's obviously incapacitated. He's not a threat to anyone at this point. Lay him down on the ground, call an ambulance, and get him taken care of. You know, don't just throw him into a paddy wagon like an animal.
I live right on the corner.
Harold Perry's row home is within earshot of where police handcuffed Gray. Perry was in bed when he says Gray could be heard begging for mercy.
And then I heard the young man holler, "Get off of me. You're hurting my legs. You're breaking my legs." And the police hollered to him, "Shut up," is what he said.
We all are to blame.
Yet recovering drug addict Andre Kennedy thinks citizens of Baltimore bear some of the responsibility.
We as a community dropped the ball. When I come out here and I know who shot the little 3-year-old girl and I don't say nothing, I drop the ball. It starts with me. It starts with the man in the mirror.
Yes, and we're going back to Israel and a possible breakthrough in the negotiations to form a new governing coalition in Israel. Naftali Bennett, leader of the right-wing Jewish Home Party, has reportedly scrapped his demand for the foreign minister portfolio and will accept the education portfolio instead. This would allow Benjamin Netanyahu to let Avigdor Lieberman keep the prestigious foreign ministry and enable him to form a government with right-wing and religious parties. Netanyahu has 1 week left to form a government. And to understand all this mess, because it's always a mess here in Israel, with me is Professor of Political Science, Dr. Hani Zubaydah. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
When?
I need everything written just to get along with all
when? Come on, it's starting to be a little bit too much.
Here goes. They're going to take him to the finish line. They're not going to allow him to finish this before. Nobody has signed anything yet.
He doesn't have any more gray hair to become white.
Well, it has nothing to do with him because he is now a sidekick in the show. The show is completely different. Everything has changed. He basically has all the basic agreements. So if we'll talk about it like marriage, everything was set. They decided, they know the due date. The due date is a week from today. All they need to work out now is the menu. So
okay. So the menu or the ketubah?
Well, it is the menu. It is the menu because the ketubah is done. They're going to get married, and it's already done deal. We're going to have a narrow coalition of 67 members, and it's going to be a right-wing coalition. It's going to include the Jewish Home. It's going to include Israel Our Home, Lieberman Party, Bennett Party. Kachlon is going to be there. The two ultra-Orthodox parties, Shas and the Degel HaTorah, and of course Likud, and that's going to be it
so it's
for
going
the
to be
time being.
67?
67 it's going to be, with the notion of the redundancy of Lieberman. You just spoke about the prestigious foreign ministry. It is prestigious if it has any kind of content. In this case, it's going to be zero content. He's going to be...
You are breaking the party for Avigdor Lieberman.
I'm sorry. Mr. Lieberman, the foreign minister, is going to be in charge of the relationship between Israel and Micronesia, which is a small island in the Pacific, which is going to be about
it. Between Israel and itself.
Yeah. But I don't want to be more rude or crude towards him. So, but here goes. You know, all coalition agreements must be signed. It's a legal agreement. It must be signed and deposited. There is no more secret coalition agreements. So as of this moment right now, no agreement was signed.
Wasn't there any surprise for you to whom we're going to see in where?
Well, it is because, we spoke about it I think a week ago before all the tour of the Independence Day started. So here goes. Naftali Bennett, and it needs to be said, the pressures are from the inside and from the outside. Naftali Bennett, his pressure is more from the inside than the outside, because right now he's holding Benjamin Netanyahu by a thread, because without him there's no coalition. Because of his 8 seats, Benjamin Netanyahu falls to 59 seats. However, the traditional Mafdal, which is the Zionist religious party, they want him to take the education ministry. So they went all out loud in the last 4 days, excluding Saturday and Friday, of course, and they pressured him to take the education ministry. However,
can I be worried a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am worried a little bit.
You should, because he is going to give Benjamin Netanyahu and what we call the left an extreme hard term. Yes. He said that.
Honey, and no, honey.
Okay.
Honey, today you're only a sit-up, not a debate. But I promise you that this week you will see me much longer. I promise you that. Dr. Hani Zubaydah, thank you very much. Poor Avigdor Lieberman, poor Avigdor. Didn't say anything. The UK goes to the polls on May 7, and campaigning is in full swing. Joining the established parties are those which have no chance of winning. You want to see and to understand what I'm talking about, all in the next report.
Politics can be a stuffy, serious affair, unless you're this man.
My name is Howling Lord Hope. Howling Lord Hope. I am the leader of the official monster Raven Looney Party.
Founded in 1983, the party's mission is to inject silliness and satire into what can sometimes be rather stale terrain. But don't be fooled. A number of their seemingly loony policies have become law.
Passports for pets. All we were saying really was, why can't you have your dog or your cat inoculated, take him on holiday with you and bring him back after 2 weeks? We campaigned for all-day pub opening. We were the first party to ever do that, and that came about. We campaigned for the abolition of the 11+. We also campaigned for an honour for the Beatles.
And if the campaign trail all gets a little too much, there's always loony co-alition to help unwind.
Wonderful. This is what keeps me going.
From an old staple to the voice of a new generation. A Colour is a British rapper whose music gives a voice to young people, particularly those on the margins of society who may otherwise go unheard.
We live in a country governed by old money, governed by Etonians and inherited class privilege and monarchy and all of these other things, dressed up as a fair society. And young people, with particularly young poor people, particularly young poor brown people, and if they have the cheek to have radical ideas on top of that, are a threat to that entire structure.
Another artist using music as a platform to promote a political message is Brian May, the former guitarist of Queen.
It's all glamour. All glamour.
His Common Decency campaign aims to improve the way voters engage with politics by creating a more equal political playing field. From the theatrical stage to a political one, English film and television director Ken Loach is using his limelight to promote the Left Unity Party. Founded in 2014, the party was in part inspired by the rise of left-wing parties in Greece and Spain. Here, at this squat in London, Ken Loach raises the key issue of housing. From loonies to rappers, guitarists to film directors, a whole host of characters are adding their very individual messages to the UK's general election, adding thought, music intelligence, and hopefully raising a smile.
Of course they are.
Stay in the same region, but economy. And from UK politics to the UK's richest, with me is Dr. Alex Coleman, Value Creation Expert at the Academic College of Tel Aviv. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm seeing this. I have this information. I'm seeing a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
Big numbers. Like 547 billion pounds, 13 billion pounds, 11 billion pounds, 13.17 billion pounds, 1.23 billion. A lot of pounds.
So it takes a lot of money to be very rich. In fact, it takes much more than it used to take, because in 1997, if you just had 15 million pounds, you could be on the list of the 1,000 richest. Okay. And today, you need 547 million, so you need much, much, much more.
So it means that people just became like richer and richer and richer. How come?
This is very sad, because we assumed, our assumption was that wealth would be spread more evenly. As people would have more education, more opportunities, would be more middle class, and the wealth would be distributed. And actually the opposite happened. And I think part of it is technology, people having startups and making billions of dollars. Part of it is because many people on the list are actually Russian Soviet oligarchs, people who basically robbed the ex-Soviet Union and they became billionaire. The number one is Blavatnik, and you have also you also have Abramovich, who's going to be my neighbor in the future. So you have many people who made a lot of money outside the UK and came there. But I find it very, very, very sad.
It's sad, but you know, how did it happen? How did something like that happen even in UK, even in the Western countries where we are supposed to see like more, yes.
Well, I think
more socialist way to
exactly.
to the other.
Exactly, that was the assumption. The assumption was that in the past you had a few very rich, I mean, if you think Robin Hood in the context of the United Kingdom, there was a king with some very powerful people who robbed the poor and ignorant, and now that you have democracy, you expected it to level out. And actually we have a measure which is called the Gini measure, which measures how equal a population is. I mean, if you were to think, I would assume that North Korea is relatively high on that index, but the UK, especially after Thatcher, became much more segregated, where you have few people have a lot of wealth and many people have nothing.
Who you said is going to be your neighbor?
Abramovich, he just bought for 100 million shekels.
100 million shekels? I hope that you're going to ask a little bit more than a cup of sugar.
Absolutely, when it comes, sure.
Alex Goman, thank you very much for
Sure.
this. U.S. President Barack Obama took time off from his busy schedule to attend the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. In keeping with tradition, the president poked fun at his rivals in Washington and, of course, at himself. I-24 News reporter Roy Shapira has the highlights.
Once a year, Hollywood stars and top-notch journalists gather at the White House for a front-row seat to the best stand-up show in town, The President's.
After the midterm elections, my advisors asked me, Mr. President, do you have a bucket list? And I said, well, I have something that rhymes with bucket list.
President Barack Obama didn't disappoint this year, stinging political opponents and allies.
A few weeks ago, Dick Cheney says he thinks I'm the worst president of his lifetime. Which is interesting because I think Dick Cheney is the worst president of my lifetime. I look so old, John Boehner's already invited Netanyahu to speak at my funeral.
Obama also took the opportunity to be sincere for a moment, speaking about the jailing of Washington Post journalist Jason Razian by Iranian authorities, a delicate issue as Iran and U.S. relations are getting closer.
I have told him personally we will not rest until we bring him home to his family, safe and sound.
The White House Correspondents' Dinner has been going for 101 years now, and it has become a chance for presidents to let off steam.
Hold on to your lily white butts.
Obama has only one of these dinners left until he leaves office. As with the 7 years attended so far, by the time next year's comes around, he is sure to have enough material to amuse his audience.
How come none of us were invited to this party? Now to sports. And with me right now is the host of I-24 News Sports Magazine,
who was also not invited to the party. How come? Bring me in. I will speak of sports.
I cannot believe that they didn't invite us. You know, we're
shame on them.
So much fun.
Yes.
And we have like such great punchlines.
Yes.
And
it would have been wonderful.
And
really.
you know, it's only 2 tickets to Washington.
Yes, come on. And I'm sure there's good food.
I will send my
yes.
Tell them. Yes. My anger to the White House.
Bring us next year.
Let's talk about sports. And let's talk about Bayern Munich.
Yes, basically we knew for weeks that they'd be champions. I think we knew it even before the season began. It became official about a half hour ago. Bayern Munich are the 2015 Bundesliga champions. They played yesterday and they beat Hertha Berlin 1-0. They did not know then if they would be champions because they had to wait for Wolfsburg's game, which was played today. Wolfsburg lost, which means there are 15 points to play. There are 12 points to play. The gap at the top is 15 points. So Bayern Munich, congratulations. German champions for the 3rd year in a row. There we see Bastian Schweinsteiger scoring their only goal. 1-0, enough for them to be champions.
So let's talk bad news. Again.
Yes, the Belgrade derby between Red Star and Partizan is always a heated affair, and once again there was violence with both set of fans clashing with each other, clashing with police. Yes, this is a heated affair. One thing we have to say about the fans in the Balkan, they are very, very hot, always giving a lot of support to the teams, but there's a big problem there. We saw that in the match between Macedonia and Russia recently. Before that, Croatia and Italy match was abandoned. Then the match between Serbia and Albania, a lot of problems there. This is a place of great sport, but also a lot of problem with fans, something to be watched for.
Because I didn't go to the White House dinner,
Yes.
take me to experience sport.
Colombia, Cartagena, cliff diving. It looks beautiful. They jump from, it's only 27 meters low, I would call it. And it's the first leg of the Red Bull cliff diving competition. And Gary Hunt, who won last year, wins it today. Won the first race of the season. This is Orlando Duque. He is the hero of Colombia. He's one of their divers. He came in third. Very good performance. Very good performance. I mean, we do that on a. We jump here to the scene, to Jaffa Port like this, right?
From here, from
easy,
the balcony.
easy.
Come on, we're doing
Yes.
this like
Let's jump.
nothing. Let's jump.
Yes.
Let's jump.
So easy.
The jumping.
Of course.
Jumping.
I will do it just as good as they do. Almost. Why are you laughing?
Jonathan Gregev. Jump, jump, jump. We're going out to jump for the break. 2 minutes, and I'll be back.